Hello and welcome to the AJA Sports Show. It's going to be a little different today. We are minus the J and A that make this show complete, but we will storm on through. J and A are off on a vacation for the week, as I might not define as well deserved. Just kidding. Hope they have a blast. Maybe they're tuning in, but hopefully not. Hopefully they're just having a good time and enjoying their evening wherever they may be. Today's show is going to be the NFL Week in Review. We're going to go over some of the signings that happened this past week, go over some question marks where we maybe think is things got a little messy, or did teams improve with some of their acquisitions. But first, I wanted to start off the show by talking about the late, great Elgin Baylor, who I'll put on screen now. I'm going to read a little bit what I wrote off, but he passed away today at the age of 86. He was an all-time great Laker, but probably and not deservedly so, being underrated, being for some of the accolades that he has. When I think of him, I think of humility, and it's not necessarily the way that his stats and his career read, but how he was as a person. He was flashy when he played. He had fun. He played the game the right way. Every possession was important to him. He played rebounds really well for a 6'5" forward. He just was an overall fantastic player. But you wouldn't have really known that back in the day unless you watched him play and you had perspective. As a basketball player, he was one of the 4 players in all-time NBA history to average 25 points and 10 rebounds a game. He was a Hall of Famer, an all-time NBA first-team player. He was an All-Star Game MVP in his first season. He was Rookie of the Year in his first season. He led the Minneapolis Lakers to the championship, where they would lose to the Celtics and Bill Russell during that time. He was one of the probably most important players to move from Minneapolis to Los Angeles as they made that transition. He also, after his playing career, moved on to be an executive of the Los Angeles Clippers. They weren't obviously a storied franchise when he was with them, but he did bring in some of the class of the Clippers, top dog, so to speak. From Elton Brand, Ron Harper, who was also a Laker, but Ron Harper had a lot of success when he was playing with the Clippers. Chris Kaman, Corey Maggette, Lamar Odom, Cuttino Mobley. There was a lot of players that came and played for that team. And then in 2006, he won Executive of the Year. He stepped away a couple years later, but after not having much success for the first 95% of his time as an executive, he did make have the accolades of being the executive of the year. That year, the Clippers made it to the playoffs, and I think they went as far as the Western Conference Finals. A little bit to speak to him about him as a person. He played the entire, this is will blow your mind of if you think about it in today's terms, but he played the entire 1960 to 61 season as an Army reserve, and so he would only play with the Lakers on the weekends. So he only played 48 games that year, and he was only able to leave if he got permission. So there were some weekends where he also potentially had to miss some game action. In that season, he averaged I believe it was 34 points a game. So just insane stats. Yeah, he averaged 34.8 points a game and 19.8 rebounds, which is just absurd. For someone he was 6'5", he played a forward, but he was playing an undersized position because as time has gone on in the NBA, the forwards have been a little bit taller now. So probably more of a guard height back in the day, but so just to kind of continue about him, after he retired, in his home, he left no trace of anything from the NBA. He only kept one trophy. When he was 14 years old, he won a trophy for some high school tournament, and that was his first trophy, and that's the one he kept around. He kept everything else in a locker. So he just, a lot of players, I'm sure, like show off their accolades and their achievements, but he kind of just wanted to live his life. He's been immortalized forever as a Laker great. He has a statue right in front of a Staples Center. And then if you watch some of his tape, which I'm sure if you've been keeping track of sports today, you'll just watch him play and you'll notice how he played. And he was just one of the first players to play with flair. Like he dunked, he played above the rim. He used the backboard a lot, which was fun to see him using whatever he could use to make score some points for his team and get some wins. And then just a couple of the records and some of his career highlights. He played all his years with the Lakers. He was the only player in history to score over 60 points in an NBA game. He holds the record at 61 points. In a finals series against the Boston Celtics, he scored on 30 points a game every game, which has never been done before, and hasn't been done since. And as I mentioned before, he led the Lakers to the championship game in his rookie year, where they fell short. But yeah, a phenomenal player. He was decimated by injuries towards the back of his career. He actually missed technically getting a ring because he retired the season of 1971 to 72, where the Lakers won the championship. But the day he retired, the next day he started working in the front office. He helped the team with scouting and public relations, and they still gave him a ring, which he's kind of been touted as like the best player to never get a ring, but he technically has a championship ring, which is kind of cool to see. Okay, so let me zoom myself in here and read some comments. Elizabeth, hello, it's nice to see you live, sir. Well, thank you. Andrew, rest in peace, Elgin. Yeah, definitely. If we had seen him during our time, we probably would have been like even more so devastated. But it's always crazy to lose a Laker legend. What up, Ace? Andrew with the double comment, and Elizabeth also putting in her condolences. Yeah, he passed away from natural causes, and he was with his family at the time. So he was with the ones he loved. So at least he had that. Obviously we had the accident with Kobe Bryant last year, where we were even more so devastated. So rest in peace, Elgin. Not just the Lakers community, but the whole NBA community will mourn your loss and your impact you've had on the game. Okay, we got another comment coming in. Thank you, Andrew, for the for the props. If you were here, I'd dap you. Looking good. Thank you, man. As always, right? That's why are you repeating yourself here? Come on, man. I'm just kidding. Okay, so today, as you saw in the thumbnails, we're talking about the NFL Week in Review. A lot has happened since Jay and A and myself had joined you. I'll go over a little bit of the signings. And just kind of breeze through them, not spend a ton of time. If you saw them over the week, you saw them. But I'm going to get a little bit into some of the signings, how they have shaped the rosters, and I'll kind of give you a couple of my thoughts as we go. Before I start, yes, thank you. What is that? Real recognizing real? Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so first though, before we get into signings, some news that dropped today. The NFL 2021 draft is returning to normal potentially, but normal for these times. So Cleveland will be hosting from April 29th to May 1st. There will be fans, prospects, and media in attendance for the event. So this is where it was all digital last year. We have some teams bringing in they're going to call them draft ambassadors, but those are fans. And then, obviously the people working for the teams. You have to be vaccinated, so if you want to come and apply them, that is one caveat that must be met, and you have to wear a mask the entire time. From what I understand, there won't be any eating or drinking. We got a couple more comments rolling in. LOL, this guy, arrogant much. Okay, well, I'm just being confident. Confidence is something that's probably in short supply these days. We've all been home in our COVID bubbles and like scared of the sunlight and scared to breathe normally outside. So I urge you all to share a little bit of Ace's confidence as you go on through your day. And then Johnny Cass is coming in with the comment, Elgin Baylor, Laker for life, definitely. You know, he'll be on the rafters forever, and we'll always think back about how great he was and how much he's contributed to the Lakers over time. So the NFL draft, we're gonna have fans and media and prospects, as I said. So it'll be quasi normal. They're still gonna have some prospects at home, being viewed in digitally, like they did last year. Coaches as well. Teams will still have their war rooms, where they build them is kind of up to them. A couple of interesting things is the NFL still wants to kind of take advantage of this weekend to raise money for the pandemic, so they're going to have some mostly outdoor events going on that weekend too, at the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, at First Energy Stadium, and the Great Lakes Science Center. So we'll see. There's not many details about that just quite yet, but they're going to use this as an opportunity to raise funds for. I'm not 100% sure who yet. They haven't really said, but as we get more knowledge of that, we'll definitely pass it along or share our thoughts. I know myself and Jay and Andrew have kind of thought that some of these extra things going on in the landscapes of the NBA, like the All-Star Game, and the NFL having a draft in person is possibly a bit too much, but we are trending upwards, thankfully. More people are getting vaccinated every day, so we can hopefully hold out hope that more and more things return to normal, and that we can put all this chaos behind us. So that'll be interesting. My take is I don't have a take. I'm kind of just neutral about it. I'm sure it'll be a safe event. Hopefully, if you're a fan there, you can scream, because you can't scream if you're in a theme park in California. So get out your screams at the draft if you're also going to be going to Disneyland in California next month, which will be opening up around the same time. So when I do shows by myself, whenever that happens, I'm gonna, writing a little solo, embracing the comment section, going through some news topics, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Not every show is gonna just center around the NFL. We just wanted to touch base with y'all and give you guys some of our thoughts about, the landscape and how it's been changing. But a little segment I'll do is called Q and Ace. So Q and Ace. So I'm gonna go over NFL rosters today. I'm gonna ask myself the question and then give you guys an answer. So the first item up for bid is the New England Patriots. So the Patriots have spent $162.5 million pending, which the number is going to go up because a couple of their contracts are still not completely finalized, which exceeds the prior NFL record by the Miami Dolphins, which was last year of $147 million. So it's blowing that one out of the water. And it's probably going to get to the point where the team was bought for like 170-something million, and this year they're giving away probably over that in guaranteed money. As you might know, NFL contracts are not guaranteed, so the guaranteed part is the important part to remember, because you'll see players being cut a lot of the time later in their contracts. So it'll be where my question is are the Patriots going to be better? And I don't think so. Not because I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and not that I despise the team. Just speaking as neutral as I can. I just don't see it happening. I've been an advocate for super teams and not working, and as you've probably heard from some of my takes, my take here is that I just think it's highly unlikely that a team of players that haven't played together, and let me pull up a little visual for you guys too. Give me 1 second. So we're looking at the screen right here, and I'll put it in full view for you guys to see. But Jonnu Smith, Matt Judon, Devon Godchow, Jalen Mills, who will be potentially also playing safety with the retirement of Patrick Chung today. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, probably two of the not two of the highest wide receiver players on this year's board, and then going on from there, not going to read everybody's name off, but you can kind of see right there that it's a little crazy to see how many players are coming in, how many players are traded. This is highly unlike the New England Patriots, so I do have a nice stat to mention here. They are the sixth team to spend like this much in this range, and none of those teams even won a playoff game. So if you spend a lot in the NFL, it doesn't always work out in your best interest. The point kind of being there is, the rosters are obviously a little bit bigger than some of your other major sports, but with the larger roster, you kind of obviously have some concerns of how a team can be put together and play together well. There is just no statistics that line up that they'll win a playoff game. Two of those six teams have made it to a playoff game, but just haven't won. So maybe they can improve their wins, which they will. They have better players on the field for next season. I just don't see that equating to championship success, which, they're kind of sitting in the shadow of Tom Brady now, having won one without them. So they'll say they're happy for him as much as they want, but they really want to get one up on Tom. My question and answer there, I just don't see it happening. But crazier things can happen, and this team kind of has proven that they can, do some of the impossible things, possibly because they cheat. But anyways, we won't sidebar that far. Okay, so the next team up is the Houston Texans. My question here is just is this the type of rebuild you want? Okay, and so I'm going to pull up another graphic. I pulled this from Twitter. There is one mistake on the bottom, which I'll point out right now, but we'll still share it. So it might be a little hard to see, but so far, I think they're actually exceeding the 25 signings right now, which is crazy to think. But at the bottom there, it says Ryan Finley, and that actually should be saying Ryan Izzo, the tight end. So you have two Ryan Finleys, but Ryan Izzo is a tight end that they got through trade from Houston. Or from, I should say, New England. My kind of thoughts on Houston are, I just don't 100% understand. They have a new GM, Nick Cassero. He's dropped their overall cap, which was above 20 million to below it, so that I think it's 30 million below now. I just don't know what their direction is without having clear direction at the top of their offense with Deshaun, who not knowing if he is going to be even playing a game next season, because he might be suspended by the NFL if his civil lawsuits come or don't come to fruition. I don't know if again, a roster of that's a ton of players being put together, just much like the Patriots. I just don't see it happening. So when you think of rebuilds, you think of gradual success. So they've signed a lot of players to 2 or 3 year deals, so they have potential there to work with and potentially grind this period of their franchise out. We just don't know what's going to happen with them. It's just a lot of chaos at the moment, especially because we don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun. So as we know more about Deshaun, we'll also know more about the direction of that franchise, because Deshaun is a franchise-changing player. He just has a lot on his plate right now. But we'll keep our 2 cents out of that for now. But it doesn't look great for him. But yeah, if you have any thoughts about any of these teams, you can feel free to share them in the comments section below. If we have any Patriot, Texans, or Raiders fans watching this now or on repeat, you can let us know how you feel. I'm just not feeling pessimistic about these teams. I just not feeling very realistic. And then the last team I'll talk about in my Q&A section is what are the Raiders doing? And again, I'm going to be completely real with you guys. I have literally no idea. So last season, Derek Carr had a very standard, successful season for himself. Josh Jacobs ran the ball really well. They had an 1,000-yard receiver with Darren Waller. And then they've made some moves that are just questionable. So they completely working their offensive line, which had injuries last season. So I can potentially see that as being the reason that they want to, change it up. But their offensive line, when healthy, was extremely proficient. It led them to have a successful season on offense. And then, thank you, Elizabeth. Sorry, pausing for a comment here. By the way, I love the Q&A. It's very creative. Yeah, you know how we be here in the AJA Sports bubble. We come up with lots of fun stuff for you guys to enjoy. I would say a highlight of their team was their offense, and a low part of their team was their defense. And so far, they've added Ngakoue on their defense, which is appropriate for a team that statistically was not good at all on defense, but they just haven't made moves on offense that I've been in line with. They seem to be focusing more on the offense this offseason, signing a couple running backs to the roster that just don't make a ton of sense. When they already have a pretty solid running back. And they haven't done enough for me on defense. I would give their coaching probably a C last season, probably give their defense an F, and maybe their offense a B. And so far they haven't done much for the defense. If you're going to be successful in the league, you have to have better than an F on defense, right? And I think they finished 8-8 last season, so they were potentially in the running for maybe a wild card if they had won a couple more games. Obviously, they weren't going to beat the Chiefs for that division, but still, they had slight potential for a wild card. Just needed more wins. That's my thoughts on the Raiders. Again, I didn't. These are the three teams that I figured I'd talk about in the Q&A section. I don't have a ton more to discuss. I probably should have been a little bit more optimistic with some of these signings, but I'm going to get into some more teams and a little bit more optimism as I go on. So that'll be the end of the Q&A section. We're going to talk about some notable signings next. So if you were on Twitter, free agency frenzies has been trending for a few days. Today's big signing was Adoree Jackson to the New York Giants. So they spent $39 million to get him for 3 years. He was in my rumor section before the show premiered, and then noticed that he was signed just before I went on. So so the Giants have brought in Kyle Rudolph as a second tight end and Kenny Golladay, the number one wide receiver, off the board. So a lot of offensive change for the Giants there. Some other notable signings that we didn't cover last week were Juju Smith-Schuster to Pittsburgh, Deshaun Jackson recently to the Rams, Chris Carson, running back to Seattle, so signed a 2-year deal to come back. Desmond King to Houston, so he staying in the division. He played for the Tennessee Titans last year after he was traded from from Los Angeles. Will Fuller to Miami. He'll be suspended for the first game based on his 6-game suspension to end the season last year. So Miami will have him for 15 games, but speedster, high potential there. Mitch Trubisky to Buffalo. He'll be back up to Josh Allen. He was the lowest ranked quarterback last year in terms of PFF. However, as long as he's good enough to be a backup, that should be okay. And then Kenyon Drake to Las Vegas is what I was mentioning before. Kenyon Drake played last season with the Arizona Cardinals as the starter, but lost the job as the season went on to Chase Edmonds, who just ran harder than him. So a little, back to Oakland, just a little confusing. why they would sign another running back when it wasn't the problem last year. So those were the signings. We're kind of towards the back end of signings. There's still a lot of players left on the board. Most of them are veterans, so you'll probably see them play the field a little bit more as it gets closer to the season. They might not be in it for the money as much. They're probably in it for the situations that they can judge closer to the start of the season and then potentially sign. We saw that last off season. We'll see that even now and during this off season and closer and into the next 2021 season. A lot of players will just hold out because they want to sign with the team that is potentially going to win it all. And Tampa Bay can't sign everybody, so. So we're going to talk about real quick about some unsigned free agents. A couple of the people on top of my board that I'm interested to see where they go. So Sammy Watkins, ex-Buffalo Bill, ex-Kansas City Chief, is visiting with the Ravens and the Colts. I believe the Ravens tonight and the Colts tomorrow. So the Colts are lost T.Y. Hilton this year, and the Ravens desperately need wide receiver help. So the Ravens wanted to overpay for Juju to come to Baltimore. I can see Sammy getting more than he might deserve, kind of as a wide receiver 2 to 4 at points last season with the Chiefs. But part of that being him being injured as the season went on and not getting, also playing behind Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and it's hard to put up like great stats when you have two like ball hogs of stats there. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands and where he goes. Obviously, if he goes to Baltimore, there's a definite need for him there, because Baltimore does, in all of our opinions, I think on AJ Sports, doesn't have a wide receiver 1. Their tight end is most, their wide receiver 1, and then going on from there. And I know Jay really wants to see. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name, out of the slot over there in Baltimore. And yeah, so Tevin Coleman, another running back, successful running back for the 49ers over the last few years. Not the flashiest of names, but he's been tied to the Jets recently. The Jets have played around with rotational RBs the last year or so it'll be interesting to see if they continue that mantra. But the big thing there is he's tied to the Jets because Robert Saleh left the 49ers and is with the Jets now, so head coach looking to snipe old players of his back onto his roster because he knows he can get what he can get out of them. And hey, that's a smart move if you're, first year coach for a very bad team previously. Jets are still probably a couple years away, but hey, it's good to see that they're potentially making some smart moves with their franchise. And as a Buffalo Bills fan, I don't want to see. I do want to see the Bills winning the division every year, but it was kind of a little hard to watch some of the games in the division last season. So food for thought there. Richard Sherman, an old veteran, can give secondary help. He's not as, good at shadowing anymore. He probably needs to play in more of a safety position if, he transitions to that from cornerback. But it'll be interesting. A lot of teams have cornerback needs or safety needs. Mitchell Schwartz he was released by the Chiefs earlier this month. Injured last season, so again another veteran lineman doesn't hurt to have on the lineup. So he might play the field because he has a championship, so he doesn't necessarily. Maybe he's not looking for that. Maybe he's just looking for the best scenario. Alejandro Villanueva, T.Y. Hilton, Jadeveon Clowney, Antonio Brown still hasn't signed back to Tampa Bay, but reports are that he should. Russell Okung, Carlos Dunlap, and Melvin Ingram, just to round out the list. So everybody I named is a veteran. Everybody has potential to find themselves in a decent spot, but I don't think. I think out of all these names, I potentially could see the most out of Mitchell Schwartz. He probably was one of my top linemen that I wanted to see go somewhere. I think he's undervalued based off of his injuries, which rightfully so. But yeah, they're and as the off season goes on, it's still fluid, so teams can cut players at any time. So this list might be flooded in with new talent come next week. And then we have the best and the worst. So I'm just going to talk about teams here, and I'm just going to talk about one team for each. I think the best move so far is the New York Giants offense. I think with, Daniel Jones needing some more pieces around him and not just, taking it on himself. And if you watch that highlight of him trying to run like a 90-yard touchdown last year and then falling flat on his face and becoming a meme for eternity, you would know that the Giants need help. Evan Ingram completely underplayed last season. He was underwhelming, so they brought in some tight end help to / competition with Kyle Rudolph, who is a veteran, isn't probably going to come in and try to be the flashiest, but he's going to come in and make that a competition at camp. Probably will boost Evan Ingram's numbers up just a little bit. And then bringing in a wide receiver one, Kenny Golladay probably should be the number one target there. He played in Detroit's offense, which at times looked brilliant. They could put up 30 to 40 on you, and then at times was stagnant, confused, deciding not to pass and instead run the ball to Adrian Peterson. So he should potentially be in a better offense. At least the pieces being put around him are better than they were in Detroit. So I do have good hopes for the Giants and their roster next season. And then the worst moves, until I'm proved wrong, I don't think I will be. It's the New England Patriots. You don't just go into a market and just sign everybody and confuse the hell out of us and and get away with it. I think so. I do think that they will probably register a couple more wins next season, maybe 2 to 3 wins, but I don't necessarily see them becoming a playoff team unless they can sneak into a wild card spot and prove me wrong. But yeah, I mean, they still have to face the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens. The Titans can probably give them a run for their money. So I wouldn't have faith in the Patriots until I see that faith renewed. So we'll see what happens there. And that's mostly, it for the news. I'll just give you some of my final thoughts here. There's a lot of wide receivers still on the board, so it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for them. The market has been a little different this year for wide receivers. I mean, being the flashiest position on the NFL field, usually, at least offensively, usually lately it's been wide receivers or quarterbacks. They're just not getting as much love this year. Could be just with the cap space evolving, COVID potential, playing still a part of that. Money obviously is a big part of that. Teams just not wanting to pay, wide receivers what they used to. And then if you're looking at the draft class this year, there are 3 wide receiver ones probably going in the first round. Definitely going in the first round. So, there might be a while before we see all the wide receivers scooped up by teams. Still a little perplexed by the Chicago Bears just not putting that extra push to get Russell Wilson there. I think they could have. We put a poll on our Twitter. Would you have done it for the deal if you were a Chicago Bear? I think 5 votes to 4 said they would have done that deal. If they were the Seahawks said no, which is appropriate. The deal was a little low for Russell Wilson. If you're Andrew or Jay, they've said I think 5 and 10 draft picks that they would have given up, first round draft picks. I probably would have fallen into maybe the 4 draft picked territory, but it really does affect your overall outlook as a franchise unless you bring in Russell and then sign him to a long-term deal. It could have potentially shot Russell Wilson in the foot, or the Chicago Bears in the foot, if Russell Wilson didn't want to stay on long term. So a little disappointed in the Bears. They were a playoff team, needed help offensively. Obviously, they've gotten rid of one of their suspect quarterbacks. And they're bringing in Andy Dalton, who should be serviceable, but isn't going to put them on any field of like Stardom or Championship level. Russell Wilson could have done that. So yeah, that'll be it for the show today. I ran solo. You'll probably see me one more time this week. Most likely just be covering general sports and all that, whatever kind of happens during this week. I'll probably post online if there's anything you guys want me to talk about in the next show. Let me know. Pay attention to March Madness. It's hilarious. All these 1 seeds and 2 seeds losing. If everybody's bracket is busted, so just enjoy it. Don't be too worried that your bracket was busted. Yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. This is the AJ Sports Show. I'm Ace, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.